Hi, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of the Beyond the Cage podcast. I'm your host, Jim Gramm, and joining me on the line, we have a special guest. She is fresh off her first ever UFC victory. She is the karate hottie, Michelle Waterson. And Michelle, thanks for coming back on the show.
Oh, thank you for having me.
All right, let's start first here. Let's go back. You had your fight in Invicta 10, and unfortunately didn't go your way. And how soon after that were you like, I'm going to go to the UFC and that's going to be my next fight?
Well, it took a while. I was really down about losing the belt. I had a lot of pride in being Invicta's champion, and I was just really upset, confused, and just trying to figure out, what the next step was. And so I just sat down with my husband and we just kind of talked about it and seeing how long I've been fighting for and I think when you lose, you kind of take a step back and reevaluate your career and the things that I wanted out of my career. And because that door had opened at the 115 division, and throughout these last couple of years, I've been putting more muscle on. I felt like I would be able to hold my own in that division, and so, that's when we decided to make the step.
Now, was there any chance that you kind of had maybe a warm-up fight at 115 within Invicta and then go to the UFC, or were you pretty confident that, you could have your first fight right away at 115 and, not worry about tuning up or anything?
Whether it's in Invicta or with the UFC, I feel like just jumping up to 115 would be the challenge, no matter where it's at. So I just decided to go big or go home and try it out in the UFC.
Now, when you were discussing things and moving up, did you contact the UFC or did they contact you, or kind of how, if you can explain a little bit, maybe how that process went down where you finally signed your name on the dotted line to become a UFC fighter?
Yeah, we contacted them. I'm not sure if they even knew that I was interested because I have been fighting at 105 for Invicta. Now,
looking at the 115 division, obviously started last year with Carla Esparza defeating Rose Namajunas. Since that point in time, she tried to have her first title defense earlier in March, and now all of a sudden it's kind of been taken by storm by the woman from Poland in Joanna Jędrzejczyk, and she's kind of came out of nowhere to become the UFC 115-pound champion. And obviously you know Carla from your time in Invicta. Just what did you just think about Joanna's performance against someone the caliber of Carla Esparza?
Well, I had my eye on her first UFC fight. My husband and I were watching, and I remember saying that she's going to be good. Because her striking is just very clean and she's very aggressive with her stand-up. So I knew that she wasn't going to be an easy competitor for Carla. And, so it might have seemed that way for, the general public, but I guess for the girls that know or study, the opponents and the girls in that division, Joanna's no joke, and I'm sure Carla knew that as well. She just wasn't on the show, so kind of cruised under the radar for a little bit.
Now, of course, she was able to capture the title, and she defended it successfully just a couple weeks ago against someone you know pretty well, in Jessica Penne, and she was able to pretty much dominate Jessica Penne. And what did you think of that performance? So that was about as good as it gets for a overall championship performance.
Yeah, of course, and like I said, it's because of her striking. Everybody's afraid of her striking, so if they can't get past that, then they're just stuck. They have no answer. And I honestly thought that it would go further. I guess I gave Jessica more credit, but when you get shut down that way and you don't have a plan B or a plan C, then you kind of just get back up into the corner. You have nowhere to go.
Now let's get to your fight here, your first ever UFC fight, Ultimate Fighter 21 finale, which was also part of the UFC International Fight Week and the Fan Expo and all that stuff going on. And before we even to the fight, just how was all the events kind of leading up to it? I mean, you got to go probably to one of the coolest weeks that the UFC has for Fight Week.
Yeah, it was definitely a great experience. I didn't really get to experience much of the Fanex or anything like that because I was in my hotel room cutting weight and getting ready for my fight. So I guess it's a good and bad thing. I kind of stay away from the crowd because I was getting ready for my fight, but just to be a part of it, one of the biggest weeks in UFC history, and just to say that I was a part of that week was amazing.
Now, right before your fight, they had the big UFC 189 pay-per-view. What did you think of that main card?
I didn't. It's funny. I didn't get a chance to watch it because they had the pay-per-view blacked out that night of our weigh-ins, and so luckily my brother-in-law recorded and we watched it on Sunday, and I was blown away. It was amazing. I kept telling my husband, if every single one of these fighters on this card doesn't get a bonus, I'm going to be shocked, because it was like fight after fight, just knockout and submission, crazy back spinning, jumping knees, and it was really cool to watch.
Now, of course, in addition to your fight in UFC 189, you guys were kind of like the first two fights to showcase the Reebok fight gear and the new deal the UFC has inked with Reebok. And so what do you think about the new kind of fight kit and the Reebok gear that you get to wear in the cage?
I like it, I feel like the partnership between Reebok and UFC is very, very young, and there's always going to be a little bumps in the road, and you have to start somewhere. So where they're starting is amazing. I feel like it takes away stress off the fighter. One less thing I have to worry about the week of the fight. And it can only get better from here. Hopefully, we'll be able to individualize our competition outfits a little bit more, so that it's more conducive to like the individual fighter. Because we all like to wear different things when we fight. But other than that, I think it's a great partnership.
Now, getting to your fight here against Angela Magana, when you were looking over list of opponents, did her name kind of really jump out at you, or was there anyone else you were thinking about?
No, when I decided to get into the 115 division, I had to be sure that I was 100% confident in fighting each and every one of those girls. So whoever gave me wouldn't take me by surprise. So.
Now, Magana was kind of known as one of the bad girls on the season of TUF 20, so did that kind of give you any satisfaction to go in there and beat up on her?
No, I'm not too good at taking fights personal. I think that it gets in the way of my technique and my performance, and that's just the way I perform. So, whoever she is outside of the cage doesn't matter to me. I just went in there and did my job.
Well, looking over this fight, I have to say, looking at the stats, you just completely dominated her. I mean, you outstruck her 102-19. You were successful on all three of your takedowns. Did you expect more of a fight from her, or did you expect to dominate her this completely?
You always expect, you expect the worst. And so, I did expect more of a fight, but I think I was in the zone, man, and nothing was going to stop me. So.
Now, the only bit of trouble you had was in the first round. She was trying to get you in an arm bar. Was that ever close to making you tap?
Not ever close to making tap. I just had to kind of fight through the position and realize, and just realize that it wasn't a time to panic. So I did that, and I think after that, I feel like all of my jitters were gone, and I was able to kind of relax into my normal movement.
Now, besides your incredible striking, you also showcased some great takedowns with some really big slams, something that at least I haven't seen from you so far. Is that something you've been working on, or you just saw an opportunity to go for a big slam in this fight?
No, very much so. I've been working on my wrestling and my ground game. I do it all the time at practice, but I really wanted to be able to showcase it, when it counted. And I wanted to display that I'm a well-rounded fighter, not just a striker.
Of course, you mentioned one of the reasons moving up to 115, you've been adding on some more muscle. So kind of looking at that category, strength, at least in comparison to Angela, did you feel outmatched at all, or did you feel maybe even stronger than her during this fight physically?
I didn't feel outmatched. No. I felt like I had controlled the majority of the fight. And whether if it was because I'm stronger than her or if it was just because I was able to use my technique to my advantage I'm not sure. But I definitely felt stronger.
Now, of course, at the result of this fight, you had a little injury to your hand. You just posted, I believe, on your Instagram that you're going to be out 6 weeks. So was it your whole hand or just a finger?
It was one bone underneath my index finger. It was just broke straight through. So, yeah.
And do you know when exactly that happened in the fight, or could you even tell?
I'm guessing it happened sometime in the second, but to be honest with you, I couldn't tell you because I was like shot full of adrenaline and I was just going, you know.
So of course you got to be on the shelf a little bit here. Again, as you said, 6 weeks waiting. After that time, is that what you're going to be looking to book your next opponent? Yeah,
right now I'm just trying to enjoy my family, kind of be a little lazy. You know, this last fight, it was such a big deal for me because I felt like I wanted to put on a good show. You know, I wanted to show that I was one of the top contenders in the division. So every single day, all I could think about was that fight. So it's kind of nice to be able to sit back and not have to think about anything and just enjoy my family. But yes, definitely, once this cast comes off, we trying to see who my next opponent will be, for sure.
Jim Gramm talking with the Karate Hottie, Michelle Waterson. You can follow her on Twitter at Karate Hottie MMA. And I mentioned Jessica Penne earlier. Of course, I think she's chomping at the bit to get another shot at you. Is that what you think might be next? Just kind of thinking aloud, or is there someone else, someone different you like to face?
You know, I really don't care about Jessica Penne if the fight happens, and if that's what has to happen for me to get to the belt, then for sure let's do it. But I feel like it would be the same outcome.
Now, of course, this weekend at UFC 190, there's two pretty big women's fights. I'll get to the really big one in a minute, but specifically within your division, there's a huge fight between Claudia Gadelha and Jessica Aguilar. Some consider Jessica Aguilar the number one fighter at 115 pounds, never fought in the UFC. She's making her debut against Gadelha. What do you think about that matchup between Aguilar and Gadelha?
I think it'll be pretty interesting. I do feel that Jessica Aguilar has been in the game a long time. She has a lot of experience and she has a lot of wisdom in the cage. But like you said, she's never fought in the UFC, and I think it's a great matchup because she's ranked number one outside of the UFC in that division, and Claudia is right up there for title contention. So I think it'll be a great matchup. And well, I'm pretty excited to see the fight.
Now, of course, as I said, the big one, the title fight, Ronda Rousey against Bethe Gehea for the bantamweight title in the women's division. And I honestly don't see anywhere where Bethe Gehea can really worry Ronda. Is that kind of the feeling you're getting in this fight?
Well, you know, anything can happen in a fight, especially in MMA, when there's more than one thing there's more than one way to finish your opponent. But definitely I'm on your same wavelength when it comes to that. I feel like Ronda's faster, stronger, more mentally complete, and just more of a complete fighter. But like I said, anything can happen in a fight. That's why people enjoy watching MMA, and that's why people are going to be tuning in this weekend to watch that fight.
All right. Now, of course, at your fight, the Ultimate Fighter finale 21, Stephen Thompson in the main event, he's a very similar karate stylist like yourself. What did you think about his performance against Jake Ellenberger with those spin kicks?
Oh, it was great. You know, karate is starting to become a lot more popular in MMA, and the reason why I think that's so is because they're very explosive, very dynamic movements that catch you off guard. And with the little gloves and, you know, no shin pads, those movements are deadly. So he was able to be very calculated with his precision and get that finish, and it was great to see.
All right, I'll get you out of here with this. Of course, like you said, you want some time to kick back and relax. So do you have any big plans here towards the end of summer? Any vacations or anything planned?
Yes, me and my family were going to Thailand for a couple of weeks. I'm going to go see my family in Thailand, and maybe, if my hand's good enough, do some Muay Thai training.
Well, that sounds awesome. She is the Karate Hottie, Michelle Waterson. As I mentioned, you can follow her on Twitter at Karate Hottie MMA. And once again, thanks for coming on the show. I really appreciate it and look forward to your next fight.
Thank you so much.
Once again, that was Michelle Waterson right here on Beyond the Cage.